Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. President, Honorable Chief of Staff, senior government officials, and ministers present, Chairman and members of the Committee of the National Economic Dialogue, ladies and gentlemen, our friends from the media, good evening. On behalf of His Excellency the President, I welcome you all to the presentation of the final report on the National Economic Dialogue held in March 2025. May I now invite the Minister of Finance in the person of Dr. Kesel Atoforsen to give us a welcome remark. Shall we please welcome him with a round of applause, please?
Thank you. Your Excellency, senior government officials, this afternoon, the Planning Committee of the National Economic Dialogue 2025 are here to present their report. Your Excellency, on the 3rd of February 2025, you announced a set of team led by the famous Ishmael Yamson to organize a national economic dialogue. They successfully organized the economic dialogue on the 3rd and the 4th of March 2025. Your Excellency, it is on record that the dialogue was one of the best. The content was quite interesting, and the outcomes were so clear for all of us to witness. Today, exactly 3 months after the conference on the 4th of March, today, 4th of June, they are presenting their report. We are all aware that a lot has changed since then. I recall at the time of the conference, inflation was trending 22%. Today, inflation is 18.4%. That signifies that a lot has happened. At the time, the currency was about 15.5 to the US dollar. Today, we are talking of 10.29. So clearly, a lot has happened since the dialogue. And we believe that it's early days yet, and things will even continue to be better. Your Excellency, I introduce you the chairman and his team that organized the National Economic Dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I have been directed, with the permission of the chairman, to introduce members of the Planning Committee of the National Economic Dialogue. So, Mr. President, may I kindly do so? Dr. Ishmael Yamson, Chairman, please. Thank you. We have Professor John Gachi. We have Ms. Nelly Mreku, Member and Secretary to the Planning Committee. We have Mr. Anthony Sapong, Member. We have Honorable Seth Emmanuel Tekwe, Member. Mr. President, there are 4 members who are not here with us, and with your permission, we would want to acknowledge them, please. Dr. K.Y. Amwakon, Mr. Mohammed Samara, Mr. Ernest de Graft Ejir, and Dr. Nimoy Thompson. Thank you very much. May I now invite the chairman of the Planning Committee of the National Economic Dialogue to do the presentation, please. Sir, we please welcome him with a round of applause.
Your Excellency, In fulfillment of your 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana, you appointed a 7-member planning committee on the 3rd of February 2025 to organize a national economic dialogue. The members of the committee have already been introduced. The mandate of the committee was to communicate the true state of Ghana's economy to the stakeholders and the people of Ghana, develop a homegrown fiscal consolidation program to guide the national budget, and highlight key structural reforms and policy priorities essential for resetting the economy. The dialogue, as we have been told, took place on the 3rd and 4th of March this year. The committee secured participation from all key stakeholders, including but not limited to members of political parties, civil society organizations, academia, students, youth organizations, professional bodies, ministers of state, government appointees, and traditional rulers. The enthusiasm of the participants was overwhelming, and their participation and contributions were of very high quality. The reports and recommendations from the 6 breakaway sections are all captured in this report, which we are just about to present to you, Your Excellency. The breakout sessions focused on 6 thematic areas, namely macroeconomic stability and resetting confidence in Ghana's economy. 2, growth with depth, achieving inclusive and sustainable economic transformation. 3, private sector-led growth, unlocking the full potential of the private sector in national development and economic growth. 4, infrastructure development, addressing the infrastructure deficit for economic transformation. 5, structural and policy reforms, strengthening key sectors for growth. And 6, good governance, accountability, and anti-corruption measures. We are confident, Your Excellency, that you will find the recommendation useful as you lead the Resetting Ghana agenda. We also believe that you will find the recommendations appropriate for the current times of extreme global disruptions and uncertainties, where resilience means self-reliance. We are excited to know that even before we have the opportunity to present the final report to you, some of the key recommendations which were fed into the 2025 budget are already being implemented with spectacular results. The recent rapid recovery of the value of the cedi against major currencies has astounded many people who doubted the government's resolve to reset Ghana and its economy. Naturally, the question being asked is whether this is just a blip, and it is a legitimate question, because our history is replete with many broken promises. However, Your Excellency, we believe that the progress being made now is sustainable, and Ghana can create a macroeconomic environment which is stable and a country which is attractive to investors, both local and foreign, over the medium to long term. What is required is to ensure that the current drive to reverse some of the fundamental variables that create the macroeconomic instability is sustained. Additionally, the recommendations in this report, which relate to other structural reforms, particularly in the energy and cocoa sectors, if executed expeditiously and with passion, should successfully create a stable and prosperous Ghana, different from what we have ever seen in the past. Your Excellency, as it was pointed out in the briefing paper to the committee, countries that have successfully overcome the middle income trap show the importance of a permanent consultative process in which the authorities, the private sector, civil society, and international partners regularly discuss socioeconomic and growth challenges, emerging opportunities and risks, and review salient experiences and policy actions in other countries. This provides timely inputs and feedback to decision makers on implementing strategy and amendments to policies and institutional framework to successfully meet the government's vision. Success will eventually be measured by the government's ability to provide concrete solutions to challenges facing citizens and regaining policy credibility and trust. We wish, therefore, to respectfully request for your consideration that the National Economic Dialogue should be institutionalized into a permanent consultative mechanism. I wish to place on record before I finish the enormous support the committee received from the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Debra, and his team of professionals, which made it possible for us to deliver such a successful and impactful dialogue. We are grateful to you, Your Excellency, for the opportunity to serve you, your government, the people of Ghana, and our country, Ghana. We wish you and your administration success as you implement the recommendations contained in this report. And on this stage, Your Excellency, on behalf of my colleagues,
I believe the chairman and the committee deserve another round of applause, please. Indeed, the National Economic Dialogue has created a structured discussion and consultative forum that brings various stakeholders, including government officials, business leaders, civil society, academia, in addressing our economic challenges. So we need to applaud them for this work done. Thank you very much, Chairman, and the members of the Planning Committee. At this juncture, I have the distinct honor and pleasure to invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic, to deliver his remarks. Shall we acknowledge him with a round of applause, please?
Thank you very much. Ministers of State, members of the National Dialogue Planning Committee, honorable members of Parliament, senior government officials, representatives of organized labor, employers, the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with deep appreciation and a strong sense of national responsibility that I welcome you all to the presidency this afternoon for the formal presentation of the National Economic Dialogue Final Report. This initiative, which was launched 3 months ago under the theme Resetting Ghana, Building the Economy We Want Together, was conceived as a call to action and a platform for consensus building, realism, and reform. This occasion is significant because it concludes a far-reaching national conversation on our economic future and begins a new phase of implementation rooted in our collective insight and our shared commitment. Let me begin by commending first the Planning Committee and also commending all stakeholders, public institutions, the private sector, trade unions, think tanks, civil society organizations, youth leaders, academia, and our international partners who participated in the dialogue process with candor, technical depth, and a sense of patriotism. Your contributions to the success of the dialogue have been invaluable. When we initiated this dialogue, we were under no illusion about the gravity of the economic crisis we had inherited. Record debt, runaway inflation, high unemployment, and a complete loss of confidence in the economy's governance. The dialogue was therefore not an academic exercise. It was a necessary intervention in order to achieve our agenda to reset. The final report presented today reflects a broad consensus on what needs to be done to stabilize our economy, restore investor confidence, and put our country on a path of inclusive and resilient growth. It offers practical homegrown policy solutions across 10 priority areas. And I want to share briefly how your government is already responding. And the first is restoring fiscal discipline. One of the dialogue's most precise conclusions is that we cannot rebuild confidence in our economy without restoring fiscal discipline and eliminating structural inefficiencies. We have therefore swiftly amended the Public Financial Management Act to introduce a binding debt ceiling aimed at Ghana's debt to GDP ratio, aimed at reducing Ghana's debt to GDP ratio to no more than 45% by 2028. To support this, we are establishing an independent fiscal council by the third quarter of this year to provide professional, non-partisan oversight of the national budget and borrowing framework. This body will publish regular assessments to keep the government accountable to the people. The second is energy sector sustainability. The dialogue recognizes growing energy sector liabilities as the greatest existential threat to fiscal consolidation and macroeconomic stability. Our energy sector carries a debt burden of over 3.1 billion US dollars, with an estimated 1.8 billion US dollars more required to finance fuel procurements for uninterrupted thermal power generation in the coming months. If left unaddressed, this situation significantly threatens national productivity and industrial growth. While we have devised a strategy to liquidate this debt and staunch the bleeding in the power sector, we must take advantage of recent gains created by appreciation in the value of our currency to accelerate the solution to our energy sector challenges. In line with the dialogue's recommendation to boldly tackle the crisis in the energy sector, Parliament yesterday approved an amendment to the Energy Sector Levies Act and a certificate of urgency, introducing a 1 cedi, Ghana cedi, increase in the energy sector recovery levy. This decision, though difficult, is necessary and justifiable. The additional revenue projected is 5.7 billion cedis annually. This revenue will be strictly ring-fenced to pay down legacy energy debt, finance ongoing fuel purchase, and avert the risk of recurring power shortages. Funds from this levy will not be subject to the hazards of the consolidated fund. And the minister is here. I know when money falls into the consolidated fund, it faces certain hazards. It will not be subject to the hazards of the consolidated fund. The fund will be regularly audited and audit reports made public to ensure its transparent use. While initially much of this revenue will go into the purchase of fuel to ensure stable supply of electricity, with the ongoing developments in the upstream sector, we expect to receive more gas from our E&I Sankofa and Jubilee and 10 fields. With also the assurance of additional gas through the West African gas pipeline, we expect to substantially reduce the use of liquid fuels in our energy mix. At that stage, the resources generated by this increased levy will be channeled to pay down accumulated legacy debts in the power sector. With the recent gains in macro stability and strengthening of the Ghanaian cedi, this levy is not expected to result in any immediate fuel price increases at the pump. We are fully aware of the burden this will place on households and businesses, but I want to assure Ghanaians that this decision was not taken lightly. Furthermore, the government will continue working to reduce systemic inefficiencies in the energy procurement and distribution sectors, while enhancing targeted social interventions for vulnerable groups. Reforming the tax system for growth and fairness. Another central recommendation of the dialogue was to reform Ghana's overcomplicated distortionary tax regime, which has become both a disincentive to investment and a burden on the ordinary citizen. Accordingly, the government has moved to repeal 4 punitive and counterproductive taxes within the first 90 days of this administration. The electronic transfer levy, which was known as the e-levy tax, the emissions levy, and the betting tax. Additionally, we're undertaking a comprehensive rationalization of the VAT regime to remove cascading effects and restore predictability and fairness in VAT taxes. After stakeholder consultation and parliamentary review, these changes will take effect from September 2025. Our goal is to have a leaner, simpler, pro-business tax framework that supports growth and compliance. Reviving the productive economy. The dialogue reaffirmed that no nation has ever taxed or borrowed its way to prosperity. Therefore, we must refocus national development around production, exports, and value addition. To this end, we're rolling out our flagship 24-hour economy program, targeting agro-processing, logistics, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, and public safety sectors. Firms operating in second or third shifts will benefit from fiscal incentives, utility discounts, and labor support schemes. This approach will help us expand job opportunities, reduce youth unemployment, and increase output with significant new capital outlay. We are repositioning the Ghana Export Promotion Authority to lead the implementation of a new accelerated export development strategy aimed at raising non-traditional exports to $10 billion by 2028. Export zones, port automation, and trade facilitation reforms are being aligned with this goal. Addressing structural constraints and labor market realities. Ladies and gentlemen, the dialogue made it clear that Ghana's crisis is not just fiscal, but also structural. We face a mismatch between our educational outcomes and our labor market needs, inefficiencies in public service delivery, and weak coordination between central and local governments. The government is therefore finalizing a public sector productivity and reform strategy to be launched in January 2026. This strategy will rationalize state institutions, reduce duplication, digitize operations, and improve service delivery standards. Through the National Skills Development Authority, we shall align tertiary and technical education with Ghana's industrial and service sector priorities. Young people must be trained for the job markets of today and tomorrow, not the job titles of the past. A new era of accountable economic governance. The dialogue also called for a reset in how we govern the economy, not just in terms of policies implemented, but also in terms of how we ensure transparency and accountability. To this end, I've directed that the Ministry of Finance and National Development Planning Commissions must issue biannual public reports on the implementation status of all significant recommendations made in the National Economic Dialogue Report. Furthermore, we'll institutionalize multi-stakeholder review of our medium-term development plans and strengthen parliamentary oversight over public spending through enhanced audit and disclosure mechanisms. And I think on this stage, I take Anchorage Mariamson's suggestion on board that we hold an annual review of the implementation of the dialogue. Fellow citizens, the final report of the National Economic Dialogue is more than just a policy document. It is a covenant between government and the governed, between evidence and action, and between vision and results. We ask Ghanaians to trust this process, and you did. Today, I reaffirm our end of the commitment. We will implement these reforms with honesty, urgency, and discipline. We will govern not in secrecy, but in openness. We will place national interests above every narrow consideration. In the coming days, I'll issue an executive directive establishing an interministerial implementation committee to coordinate all actions flowing from the dialogue report. That committee will include civil society and private sector observers and will publish its final implementation bulletin by August 2025. Let me thank my uncle, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, and members of his planning committee for the good work they have done in successfully planning and implementing the National Economic Dialogue. They deserve a round of applause. I also wish to thank organized labor and the people of Ghana for the patience they have exercised with us while we roll out our resetting agenda for turning our national economy around. Let us remember that no economy transforms itself, it's people who do. Institutions do, and partnerships do. The challenge before us is great, but so is our resolve. Let us move forward together with courage and conviction. Let us reset Ghana not with words but with action. And let us build the economy we all want and that the future of our children deserve. And so I wish to thank the Planning Committee for the presentation of this report. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong. Thank you.
Please be seated. Thank you, Mr. President. Shall we please give Mr. President another round of applause? Thank you. Mr. President, we thank you for ensuring that economic policies are responsive to the needs of all citizens and promoting sustainable national development through the work done by the National Economic Dialogue. With this renewed energy and roadmap for implementation clearly laid out, let me thank you all for coming, and that we've come to the end of this evening's program. We'll take the national anthem, after which we'll have a group photograph at the foyer. So shall we please be upstanding for the national anthem, please?